Well, here we are. It's another Monday. The hourglass by Squeeze. And one of these days, now that I've got no excuse other than I've been really busy and didn't get the feed line because I've got my 4 channel mixer here now at the Palatial Podcast Studio in my office, and I just need to bring the wires over and plug in a second input because I got room for it now, and then I can play all sorts of sound effects and fun stuff like that. But I just always thought that was a cool. That's a cool intro music. I Squeeze is unappreciated. Let me fix my mic. There we go. Hey, happy Monday, you guys! It's the 24th of March, so we're officially 3 days into spring, and we are officially through the first quarter of this year already. Hope you guys are having a good quarter. Things are starting to pick up on our end. This is a funny year. We'll do a quick little real estate talk, a little mortgage talk. I think what happened is that last fall, everybody was holding their breath to see how the election went. And then the election went a certain way, and they're like, great, rates are going to come down now. Donald Trump's going to fix everything. Now, I'm a Trump guy, but I think that people thought he was going to magically snap his fingers and rates would drop into threes. It's not. He has no control over that. Well, his son. But I don't want to explain that to you because it would take too long. There's some things he could do that might influence it a bit, but it's really not. He has no direct influence on mortgage rates. Okay, Fed rate he has none. He can say anything he wants to, but Jerome Powell's going to do what Jerome Powell wants to do. He doesn't answer to the president. Now, I think Congress could actually move. They felt like Jerome Powell was purposely sandbagging or something. I think Congress can remove a Fed chairman, but I don't know that it's ever been done. I know that the machine exists for it to happen, but I don't know that it's ever been done. I'm trying to keep my cable from a distraction. Okay, so it's Monday. It's the 24th. Here's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, the passing of the great George Foreman. I grew up in the golden age of boxing. I was old enough to remember Ali and watch some of his fights. I don't remember pre-exile Ali because he won the title and lost the title, was stripped of it before I really was aware of the sport, right? So I think they stripped him of his title in 68. I think that's correct. Because I know he came back to fight Frazier for the title 71. So, but there were some tune-up fights before that. But I think it was 70, 71 he came back. So they stripped him either in 67 or 68 because he was a conscientious objector for the war, which was so just absurd and radical to people at the time. Looking back at the Vietnam War now, it's like, man, the guy, how prescient of him to have done that. And I will say this. There are people that, he deserted the draft. He dodged the draft. He said, let me tell you what. Muhammad Ali was offered the Elvis tour of duty, where Elvis went to Germany and sat in a tank and pretended to be in the army. I'm not denigrating Elvis's service, but you can rest assured Elvis was never going to see battle, right? We knew that. It was cushy. They offered that to Ali. Ali could have enlisted, kept on fighting, made some appearances here and there, and not missed 3 years from the prime of his career. He chose not to. They stripped him of his title. He lost his income. He was basically making money by speaking. He would do speaking engagements on college campuses for $500. There's a guy that was making, hundreds of thousands of dollars per fight. That was, now they're making millions and millions. But in the early days, he was, boxers were always well paid, but he at that level. But he gave all that up. See, man did stand by his, stand on his integrity and stand by his beliefs, whether you approve of them or not. It cost him to take that stand. He was offered an easy way out, and he didn't do it. So, and now looking back on what we know about the Vietnam War, it's like, gosh, God bless you, man. He did what everybody else wanted to do. I'm not denigrating people that fought. Please don't take it that way. I'm just saying the way they mishandled that war, you can't blame somebody for not wanting to go and for standing up. But okay, so George Foreman and him fought. The Rumble in the Jungle was 73, and Foreman was a monster by that point. Remember, down goes Frazier, and everybody always, not everybody, but non-boxing fans always think that that's from one of the 3 Ali Frazier fights. That was actually when George Foreman beat Frazier for the title and knocked him down, and Howard Cosell with that famous "Down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier." And if you've ever seen training videos, there's a great documentary. I think it's called "When We Were Kings," and it's Ali, Foreman, and it's a documentary on the lead up to the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire, Africa, and all that went on there. And they show some training video of George Foreman hitting a heavy bag. This is a 110-pound heavy bag full of sand. This wasn't some one you'd kickbox on. It was filled with rice or something. This was sand. And this thing had been beaten up so bad it had duct tape all around it. And he's just hitting it like this, right? Just standing next to it, twisting and doing body shots. And the bag's got a bend in it like a U from him hitting it. Now, if you've ever hit a body bag, a true heavy training bag, you know that's like hitting concrete. You got to wear gloves, because not just hand wraps, because it's hard, man. It's like literally harder than hitting a human being. And this guy's hitting that thing so hard he's bending it in half. Nobody ever hit like George Foreman. And Ali even said, he'd never been hit by anything the way Foreman hit him. I mean, Foreman was destroying people. It was like young Mike Tyson. You remember the Tyson fights when early in his career, when he would just literally pick people up off the ground with his punches. Remember, he hit Terrell Biggs. Biggs' feet are coming up off the mat. Well, Foreman was like that too. Foreman was a big man. He was 6'4". He fought at around 217 to 220. He was a big man, and at the time was very kind of not mean, but just a grumpy, not a likable guy. He wasn't the Grandpa George Foreman that was selling us the George Foreman grill and that made a comeback at 4 and 5. He was, a difficult, troubled youth kind of guy that came up and fought. He's from Houston, and in the fight, so he beat Ali, then he lost to Ali, lost the title. I think he beat Ernie Shavers or somebody like that, and then he lost to Ron Lyle, and it was a bad beating. And he was laying on. They thought he was going to go to the hospital, and he was laying on the dressing room table, and he had an encounter with God. I remember watching this on 700 Club years and years ago. I was still a kid. He had this encounter with God and became a Christian and went into the shower and baptized himself. And he was telling people, I need to tell people about Jesus. I need to tell people about Jesus. And of course, you saw it ever since. From that day forward, Big George was a preacher. And in fact, that's why he came back at 45 to win the title again and beat Michael Moorer and regain the title 20 years after he lost it, because he needed money for his ministry. He was a street front preacher. He had a little storefront thing in Houston, and he would go and preach, and he had a farm, and he had 12 kids, 7 boys and 5 girls. All the boys were named George, and then their middle name was different, and then all the girls' name was Georgette. And if you asked him why he named all the kids after, all the kids had George in their name, you got a couple different answers. Some of my favorites were give them all something to have in common. And then one of them was, listen, I'm a fighter. I've been hit a lot. So when I'm old and I start forgetting, at least I'll be able to remember their name. So, but he was such a good guy, such a nice man. I read something on Facebook this morning about his relationship with Muhammad Ali, that when he first lost the title to Ali, he was bitter, and he was blaming the ropes were too loose, and that's why they let Ali do the rope-a-dope. He said they drugged the water, the heat got to him. But then he said, after my conversion, And I wasn't bitter. I was, he'd become a Christian, and he really loved Ali, and he reached out to him, and they became dear friends. Their kids grew up together. I never knew that part. I read that their kids were all close, and that and Ali actually offered him his training camp in the Poconos. I think he trained at Split Rock, and uh, because he wanted to fight, he wanted George Foreman to fight Ken Norton because Ali was afraid he couldn't beat Norton, and Norton and Ali knew that Foreman could beat Norton because Norton was already afraid of Foreman. That's what I read. So I don't know, but I was interestingly enough, I lived in such a time that I watched the Ali Frazier or the Ali Foreman fight. I remember the Rumble in the Jungle and remember the low. Ali had talked to, I don't know what language they speak in Zaire. I don't know if that's Swahili. I think it is, but he learned that he listened to some locals, and the phrase was Ali Boumbaye, which means Ali kill him. Right. So Ali's wildly popular in around the world. Now he was the underdog. Nobody thought that an older Ali was going to beat Foreman, and he had to, he dropped him in 8 rounds. But remember the crowd chanting Ali Boumbaye, Ali Boumbaye, and I remember the heat. Remember the fight getting delayed at one point. Somebody, I think Foreman would have broken his hand in training, and they had to wait 2 weeks or something happened. It got delayed once. I remember all that, and then I remember. Fast forward 20 years, and I'm in my mid 20s, and here's George Foreman regaining his title. I remember watching it at Balls. It was O'Toole's Roadhouse, this little club we all used to go to, and they had it on TV one Friday night. Watch the fight, watch him beat Michael Moore and regain the title. And of course, the wild success of the George Foreman Grill, who Hulk Hogan claims that they offered him that first. Now, if you watch any wrestling podcast, you've come to find out that Hulk Hogan is rather creative about a lot of things. Hopefully not anymore. He's become a Christian as well. But back in the day, he was telling stories a lot and he exaggerated. So I don't know whether that's true or not, but they Foreman took him up on it and lent his name to that. And at the time of his death, George Foreman was worth $300 million, and allegedly $200 million of that was from the sales of the George Foreman Grill. They sold over $100 million of those. So he made $2 a pop. There you have it. He didn't invent that, by the way. A lot of people think so, but I think they brought him a product and said, "Hey, what do you think? Put your name on this." And he liked it. He approved of it. And said, "Yeah, it's a good idea." So there you go. But God bless him because he did so much good. I'm sorry, that's professional. He did so much good in his life and was such a nice man, he became such a good, wonderful, sweet man. And 76 that's a little too young for me. I wish George Foreman stuck around a little longer. I didn't know if he was ill or anything, but he passed away last week, I think Thursday. So this is the first Monday since it's happened. Thought we talked about that. And it made me think of other moments that I remember that I watched and that historically are important. So while I'm talking about them, if you want to comment in the comment section or bleep it below in the comment section here on Facebook, because this is simultaneously being broadcast on YouTube, you guys can put it in the chat or you can put it in the comment section below. What are some famous moments that you remember? I'm going to give you a couple of mine, and then we'll leave that. You can fill in the blanks for that. I got a new watch, by the way. So I'm actually wearing a watch finally, so I can keep track of things. I remember Ali Frazier, all three. But I remember the first one because I was in second grade, and I remember reading it in a paper. It was closed circuit. Remember, that's the precursor to pay-per-view. You had to go to some place where they would have it come in on satellite. And I know Our Lady of Fatima was the Catholic church in my neighborhood that I grew up. The neighborhood I grew up in, I didn't go to church there, but they had it brought in, and the old hall. I still remember this, and all the dads in the neighborhood went up to Our Lady of Fatima that night. It was a fundraiser. The church paid whatever the fee was to have the closed circuit piped in, and then they sold beer and food and everything, and they used that as a fundraiser. But I remember that because I was an Ali, Muhammad Ali guy. I'm a little kid. Ali was magic to me, and I should have probably been a Smoking Joe Frazier fan because he's a Philly guy. He was actually from North Carolina, but he had moved to Philadelphia in his teens, and he trained in Philly. And remember, he had a bar in Philly, Smoking Joe's, and he was a local hero. And probably should have been a Frazier guy because I'm a Philly guy. But Ali lost, and I went to we were little kids. We're 7 years old in second grade talking about it at Wilmington Manor Elementary School. We're talking about the fight. And I remember Miss Tarango, who was not my teacher. My teacher was Miss West, but Miss Tarango was next door, the room next door. And sometimes we did stuff together. And I guess maybe we were on recess or gym class or something where we were together because this friend of mine, we were talking about the fight and asked Miss Tarango if she saw it. And she said, I don't pay money to watch two men beat each other up. And, I felt kind of bad. Like, well, it's boxing. like, but she had a different viewpoint of it. So, and I just remember that. I remember the fight, and I remember him, the rematch and the rematch. I remember this. ABC Wild World of Sports, which isn't on anymore, but gosh, what a great show that was. You had so much great sports to look forward to on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. And the opening video montage, if you remember, the thrill of victory and then the agony of defeat. And it was that skier coming down the ski jump and falling off the side, and he bounces across the trailer, a broadcast trailer, takes out the antenna. And they used that for years. That was the epitome of the agony of defeat, right? Well, I remember watching that when it really happened. That was I think, a Romanian or a Czechoslovakian ski jumper. And it would have probably been 1966, maybe? No, 60, maybe the 68 Olympics. But I remember watching it. He came down and something happened. He lost his footing and he goes off the side. Imagine, how high those guys, they're way up there when they come down that ski jump. And he was coming down, and it's like, just about straight down. And he lost his footing and he went off the edge. And there was a broadcast trailer there with some antennas and stuff on it that they were beaming out like a remote unit. And he hit that. It wasn't ABC's because he would have knocked out TV. But they had it on, they recorded it, obviously. But I remember seeing that. Of course, obviously, I remember Apollo 11 landing on the moon. I remember watching that. It was real grainy, but you could see it. You definitely saw Neil Armstrong take the first steps. I don't remember, I don't think there's any video footage of MLK actually being shot, but I remember him getting shot. He was still living at my grandmother's then. It was probably right before my mother married my stepfather. So I remember laying on the couch and watching. My grandmama had it on the news, and all they saw, it was just all the cameras were trained on that balcony, and all you saw was the door to MLK's hotel room and the balcony where he was shot, and then talking in the background. I don't remember much of what was being said, but I remember that. I remember Wallace being shot, George Wallace being shot when he was on the campaign trail. I remember the time Jimmy Carter was on vacation and he was canoeing with his wife and with his daughter Amy, and a rabbit jumped in the water, and they assumed it was rabbit, and it was crazy because rabbits don't particularly like to swim, and started coming after them, and he smacked at it with a paddle. And there was such outrage because he, attacked this poor innocent bunny with a paddle. It's got great fangs. That's a Monty Python reference, if you know the Killer Rabbit story. I remember that. And of course, I remember Reagan getting shot. I was a senior in high school. I remember the day. It was March, kind of a day like today, kind of rainy and cold, March, and he got shot. What big things do you guys remember? What big? Well, obviously, here's another one. The Miracle on Ice. Here's an interesting fact. A lot of people don't realize. Some do. The game against Russia was on a Friday night, and it was not live. They played the game at 5:30. They didn't show it until prime time. The game was over. I worked at a Gino's restaurant, which was back home, was like a knockoff of McDonald's, except that they sold KFC. And we had the game on a radio in the back. And when we won, that last Do you believe in miracles? Um, we had that, they had the PA system. The girls at the counter would call back an order. We had the radio up to one of them. We played it so the people in the dining room could hear it. The whole place just went up in cheers. But I was working when that happened. But I remember that, and um, various things like that. So, what are some things that you remember? Any great moments in the world history? Can be sports, can be politics, can be whatever. Um, Bleep bloop in the comment section. Put it in the chat. Now, on to something else. Favorite clothing. Clothing that you just won't give up. I did a little video this morning when I first got out of the YMCA today. So I got this shirt on. This shirt is 30 years old. And it's a little threadbare. I don't know if your camera picks it up from this angle, but it's a little threadbare. I've had this a long time, but it's got a lot of sentimental meaning to me. And I like the shirt. It fits well. I love this color. I don't know what color this is. To me, it's like a clay cobblestone color, but I'm colorblind. I'm not monochromatic. I can see colors, but I can't tell shades. So if something's like a green, bluish, could be green, could be blue. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know because I see it different from some people. So to me, this is sort of a clay, gray, green, whatever that is. But I just don't know that I'm ever going to get rid of it. It's got some sentimental value to me for the reason, because my mom and dad gave it to me 30 years ago, and it was something special. I've got a one of those canvas Woolrich jackets. I think they call it a barn coat. They do call it a barn coat. It's a Woolrich barn coat, got the leather collar. It's canvas with a wool liner in it. Very trendy back in the 90s when I got it. And I still have mine. It still fits perfectly. It's very comfortable. I love it. It's still a classic look. It's like frayed on the cuffs. It's got a little pinhole here. But overall still in good shape. And I have no intentions of ever getting rid of that thing. I love it. And you don't make them anymore. I wish they did. I wish they'd bring back some of that vintage stuff. But it's called a Woolrich barn coat, if you look that up. And mine was the green. They made it green and a sand. Mine was green. So anyway. But everybody's got stuff like that. A baseball cap that fits you perfectly, or an old hoodie that you wore at the beach and it smells like salt air. Favorite pair of jeans. Things like that, and everybody's got that, and things they hang on to. Comment that. What do you have? What's your favorite, your go-to comfort clothing that you just, it's not trendy anymore. It might even be out of fashion, but you're just not going to get rid of it because you love it. And there you go. So we got about 7 more minutes. I'm not just going to kill time. If we're done, we're done. So comment that stuff in the sections below. What famous events have you witnessed? What's your favorite? What kind of go-to clothing do you have that you still just can't let go of? And what are you guys having for lunch today? This is still basically a lunch program. So what are y'all having for lunch today? I'm not eating. Here's the question. I did want to ask this. So I'm not eating lunch today. I got some reasons for that. But how many of you don't eat before lunch? Like you just not breakfast people? Not for medical reasons. Not if you're doing intermittent fasting. If you're doing intermittent fasting, comment that as well. But I do intermittent fasting, and I have for years. But I didn't know it. I did it most of my life. I've never been a breakfast eater. I mean, occasionally, but I just never. I don't wake up hungry. I don't like breakfast food for breakfast. Now, you can put bacon on anything as far as I'm concerned, and I would eat it. I don't mind bacon and eggs. I don't mind eggs. I just don't, I'm lactose intolerant, so I was never much of a cereal eater because it would upset my stomach. But I love cereal. There's some cereals, especially when you're a kid, man, right? When you were a kid and you were allowed to eat garbage, like there was nothing better than a bowl of Frosted Flakes and some sliced up bananas. Right? Put a slice of banana in your Frosted Flakes. Man, that's heaven. Or Sugar Pops. Now, my favorite 2 cereals growing up were Sugar Pops and Apple Jacks. Loved them. Now, they're called Corn Pops now, but they were Sugar Pops. Back when they were unashamed of the fact that they were pumping us full of sugar. And you look at the sugar content of a bowl of cereal, and it's actually got more sugar in it than a Snickers bar. But who knew? But I loved Sugar Pops, corn flakes. I loved Frosted Flakes with banana, Sugar Pops, Apple Jacks, and I loved malto meal. Like they're kind of like Count Chocula or Cocoa Puffs. Cocoa Puffs are so good, right? Because when you're done, if you know, I tolerate the milk, then they turned the milk into chocolate milk, and it was so good, right? But I never really ate a lot of breakfast. I just never. I didn't really have time. I was a paper boy. I used to deliver the newspaper in the morning from the time I was 11, so I didn't really eat breakfast. But they always told you, oh, it's the most important meal of the day. But then now science is like, it's not really. And they talk about, oh, kids are starving. They don't get their breakfast. They're hungry. Well, they're probably hungry because they're in poverty and they're also didn't eat dinner the night before. Those are the kids we're talking about, that situation, not every kid. But if you're not a breakfast eater, how many of you lunch is your first meal? Just, raise your hand electronically by putting something down there in the comment section. Well, there you go, kids. I am done. We're going to call that a day, and we just magically got you through 30 minutes we knocked out 30 minutes out of the longest day of the work week, which is always Monday. It's always the longest day. Boy, today's not a long day for me. It is flying by. So much going on. To shift to business for a minute, y'all are going to hear it. I got a lot of announcements coming in the next couple of days. As soon as we nail everything down, we're gonna do some announcements. God, man, I'm so excited and I'm so blessed just to watch the way that God has engineered certain things. I'm very blessed and honored that God would include me in part of His plan. And then I got some other business stuff that's a little more directly just affecting my branch. But man, this is going to be a good week, and I'm so excited. And it's springtime, and gosh, that's another. I'm so glad we're done winter. The older I get, the more I dislike winter. We're kids. We're like, man, it's going to snow, and winter's not too bad. I'm done with that now. You can keep it. All right, you guys. Everybody have a great Monday. This is the last Monday of the month, so hey, we're already. Next time we meet, it'll be April. And now that I'm doing the podcast, I can tell the April 1st story live. The greatest April Fool's joke that was ever played on anybody. I think that will be topic of next Monday's podcast. You don't want to miss it. You guys have a great day today. And if you need anything, let me know. I'm always here, always working, and always here to help. So we'll talk to you later. We'll see you next Monday. Go out and have a great week. See ya.